Hey everybody, what's up? This is gonna be windy. This isn't gonna work. This right here is the critical piece of this whole e-fuel conversion on the cheap. I'm gonna show you what I don't like about the DIY e-fuel I did at the end of this video. We've got yet another project. I'll show you. So this is the schematic. This is what we're gonna be doing. But first, let's show you how I did it and what I do like. Hey everybody, what's up? Welcome back to another episode of Chasing 518. Today, e-fuel on Bluey. If you remember when I drove it to Arizona, when I had the body off, I put a brand new mechanical fuel pump on Bluey on the 7.3 while it was easy to get to and everything. And it didn't even make it to Arizona for the Onyx Off-Road Challenge before it started leaking. Instead of putting another mechanical pump on and having it do it again, I did what I should have done the first time and I converted it to e-fuel. There's no episode last week. I ended up working a bunch in the holidays and it just didn't pan out. But we're back at it. I got a few days off and we're going to see what we can get done on Bluey on the e-fuel. And got a lot of miscellaneous things to do. So let's get started. The Falcon's going to be getting worked on here pretty soon too. I'm starting to stack up a few parts for it. The goal is get the Falcon, the Black Bronco, usable, drivable every day, things like that. But I've got a ton of things to do. I had my neck brace recertified for King of the Hammers. I got some new goodies from companies to try out. Got some accessories for this new camera. A couple of you were very astute and noticed the video quality on a video of my dad's van is a little bit better. And that's because I got a DJI Osmo Pocket 3 or 3 Pocket or whatever it's called for Christmas. So I am using a new camera now because I was always getting frustrated with the crummy GoPro. First order of business today is unboxing this. Full disclaimer, this company reached out to me and they said, hey, we got these products, this jump starter pack. I've never had one of these small jump starter packs. I've always just carried jumper cables and jumped off another battery or used a big battery charger at home. So I turned down probably 90% of the companies that reach out to me on YouTube offering me their lights or their weird electronics or CarPlay stereos or whatever. But I took obviously the Iceco fridge that you guys saw in Bluey that I absolutely love because I love the idea of a fridge in a car. And then I also just said yes to this Avapow jump starter. So I'm gonna unbox this thing and read the instructions. I imagine I got to charge it up the first time. And this will just kind of be a, I don't know, periodic review. I told them I'm just going to kind of integrate it into my videos and give you guys some honest feedback on this thing. I've got no obligation to them to say that I love it or not. So let's get it unboxed and see what it's like. Okay, so the quick guide says that you plug this into here. Looks like you can't really do it wrong. Step 1, plug that in. Step 2, connect the clamps to the car. Step 3, start your car engine. So I obviously own plenty of vehicles with batteries. A lot of them sit for long periods of time. I'm sure it'll be no time at all before something's dead and needs a jump start. So I'm gonna keep this thing handy here in the garage, and next time something's dead, whether it's the riding lawnmower or Madeline's Bronco or whatever. I think the motorhome was the last one that didn't start. I'll see what this thing... Oh, does it have a light on it too? How does that work? Looks like it has a flashlight built in. Turn that on. Anyway, next time I got a dead battery, I'll hook up the Avapow jump starter and I'll video it and let you guys know how it works. Back to work on the Bronco here. So where I left off a couple weeks ago, I'm sure, was that I took the mechanical fuel pump out thinking that I would just order another one. I lost faith that they're all bad and they're all made in China now. Originally the plan was going to be to just change the mechanical pump, but now I've decided I've already lost time and money with that. One brand new pump going bad that Has no warranty and I can't return. So I'm gonna go ahead and just switch it over to eFuel, which I know I want long term anyway. So let me show you where we're at and what we're gonna do next. So down there in that hole is where the mechanical pump went, and then it connected to this giant banjo fitting for the fuel lines going to each head. And then, you know, it came from the bowl and the feed line and return line and all that. So now what we're gonna do, since we're gonna ditch all that, is we're gonna take the bowl all the way out, the banjo washers. So I'm gonna ditch the fuel bowl up here too in the valley, so that's gonna go away. And I also need to, probably before I drop any hardware down in that hole, I've got a freeze plug to put into the block right there. So I'll probably start with putting the freeze plug in, and then we'll get the bowl disconnected and out of the truck, and we'll see what else we can get done. So the first item going in is a 7/8 freeze plug. I'm gonna put a list of, don't get caught up in all the little parts and pieces you need to do this job to do eFuel. I'm gonna put links to every product in the description below. So check out the description if you're really into this. If not, just watch the video and enjoy the process. But I'm gonna drive this freeze plug in with a socket that is slightly undersized and get on our way. This right here is the critical piece of this whole eFuel conversion on the cheap. This is an eBay item. An Instagram follower sent me a link to, and it's got the banjo bolt threads right here. It's got NPT right here, looks like 3/8 NPT, and it uses this ear right here to mount to one of the threaded holes in the block of the valley of the 7.3. So what we're gonna do here is, I got factory banjo washers from Riff Raff Diesel. This is the banjo bolt that the fuel supply lines to the heads distributes to them. So I'm gonna get this all put together and installed down in the valley. And so basically what happens is you put your filtered electronic fuel pumped high pressured fuel into this NPT via barb or AN or whatever you want to do. Then it goes into the banjo fitting and distributes fuel to the rear of each cylinder head. And then it comes through under pressure. It's got a return hose on the front of each head. That's going to go to the regulator, and then the regulator will let any pressure at that point return to the tank. So your regulator is after all your injectors, which is the best way to plumb these things. So you send everything the pump's got to the injectors, and then you let it regulate it on the outlet side of the fuel rail. Get this installed and move on to the next part. Got the fuel bowl assembly out of the truck. So what you see when you look down in the valley is that the top of the filter itself. This whole thing comes out as a unit. You got to unplug it from the truck harness here, and then from the injection pressure regulator right there. The other wires that are on this thing are, I believe the top one is fuel pressure restriction sensor, then this one is fuel bowl heater, and then the bottom one I believe is water and fuel, because it would be at the bottom. So I'm pretty sure we're going to use this one, fuel bowl heater, red with green stripe, to trigger the relay for the electric fuel pump. But for now, this thing's staying out. Eventually I will use the plug, that wire, and then the IPR, because that has to go back in. But the fuel pressure restriction sensor and the water and fuel will just get kind of deleted from the truck's function. All right, let's go take a look at the valley. So I've got the block in there now. So there's the billet block, the banjo bolt, 2 new washers, and then a bolt. One thing I did have to do was, the original bolt that held the pump down was too long. So I found a shorter bolt, factory forward bolt in my collection. I don't know what it was from, but it was the same pitch, had a flange on it. It was just a little bit shorter. So now what we will be doing eventually, here's that plug from the fuel bowl assembly that we'll plug back into. There is the IPR plug right there where we will plug back into that. And then these are the fuel coming out of the heads when the truck's done with fuel. And these will go into the aftermarket fuel pressure regulator. And then what the truck decides to regulate and get rid of will go into this line for return. So what we'll need to do is connect this factory fuel supply to the NPT on that. So the order is fuel comes up the truck from the electric fuel pump after the filter, goes into the banjo, gets split, goes into each fuel rail, comes forward through the heads, and then whatever the truck doesn't use comes out these braided lines into the regulator where the pressure will be set, and then whatever we don't use will go out the regulator into the return and back to the tank.
Sewing machine's not in the way.
How does it sound?
Good. I don't know when. I don't know when it all like comes together, you know.
Well, yeah. It doesn't really sound like a song because my chord changes aren't fast, and it's kind of like the strumming for the whole song is just this. So you can't put me playing in your video. Okay?
Okay.
Not till I'm good.
When do you get good?
Huh?
When do you get good?
Well, like when I can actually play a song and it sounds like a song.
Okay, we've got yet another project. This one will be probably a video series all by itself. What we have here is a late 2000s Escalade motor. I don't remember if it was a 2007, 8, or 9 Escalade motor, but this is the all aluminum 6.2 L92. So kind of what I've been calling the poor man's LS3. I'm gonna strip this thing down a bit. I was hoping it was a little bit more complete, but now that I look at it, because it came with the computer and the harness, but the harness has been cut. They didn't even unplug the fuel injectors. They just cut them off. Everything seems to be really hacked. So I'm gonna trust nothing probably and just assume I bought a good long block. The intake's full of oil. Like there's all kinds of oil in there. I don't know what the wreck was like that took this Escalade out, but supposedly has 95,000 miles on it. So I'll pull it down. We'll do a compression test, leak test. I'd rather not pull the heads. I'd rather just put valve springs on it, put a cam in it to delete the variable valve timing. Yeah, basically make it a race car motor. If you guys have any experience with these and you know what I should do or any upgrades I should make, let me know. In the meantime, I think I'll pull the spark plugs out of this thing, and I don't know, at some point I need to like spin it over and do a compression test, but it doesn't have any oil in it because there's no drain plug either. I don't know. It's a whole thing. It is time to wire the electric fuel pump for Bluey. So what we're going to do is this is the factory 7.3 OBS harness that goes to the fuel bowl and to the injection pressure regulator. So we're going to use part of this because we still need to run the IPR. Let me lay this out. So we still need this plug for the IPR, but what we don't need is water and fuel. We don't need water and fuel or what's the other one? Filter restriction sensor. So we'll just tape these back in the harness, but then we're going to use fuel bowl heater wire to trigger the fuel pump relay, because this one is 12 volts hot, fused from the factory all the time. So I'll use this on the small side of a relay, like a Bosch 40 amp, and get that all modified and set up in the rig here. I'll show you. So this is the schematic. This is what we're going to be doing. Let's see if I can get the glare out of here. So the fuel pump on the frame rail will just get grounded to the chassis, and then the power wire, inline fuse. What I'm actually going to do is on the battery side, I'm going to run a resettable circuit breaker. So I'm just going to fuse this whole thing and not do this fuse here. So we'll do a resettable circuit breaker here from the battery, power the big side of the relay from the battery straight through that. And then the trigger wire, I don't know why this diagram online says white wire. It's red with a green tracer. So I will use the bowl heater wire to trigger the relay. The other side of the relay will be grounded. And then this and the resettable circuit breaker will live on the inner fender and be accessible, serviceable, auto parts store, just really basic generic items. And then this heater wire will be fused through the factory truck harness. So simple, safe. Get this harness modified, cleaned up, taped up, and I'll extend this heater wire obviously to get it over to the driver's side inner fender, and then run the rest of the wires. Okay, so now we have the factory plug. This the other end of this is in the valley, and then we've got retained the factory plug for the IPR, and then I've got the fuel bowl heater wire. Go ahead and cut the end off of this. I have like a drawer of these I save in case I need like usable pigtails to repair some other harness. So I always try to cut and leave enough to put like a butt connector on or something. So save these because I'm a hoarder. Put this on the truck and extend this wire. Probably actually extend it now. Find some similar gauge wire and add 3 or 4 feet to it to get over to the inner fender. I still need to kind of loom this up and tape it a little bit, but we've got here is a relay I'm going to use and then a backup relay, or vice versa. I just went ahead and mounted both. That way in case I ever have a relay die, I can just unplug it and plug it into the other one. So power comes to this circuit breaker from the distribution box, and then it comes out the circuit breaker into the relay, and then the blue side of the relay is just grounded to the sheet metal here, and then the trigger for the relay is this green one that's coming from the fuel bowl heater wire that you saw me work on earlier, and then the yellow wire transitions to pump power and runs down along the frame rail. The power wire for the fuel pump goes into the main loom that goes back towards like fuel sending unit and tail lights and all that stuff. Just tucked it in there, and then it can jump out of that loom when it gets to the pump on the frame rail. So now my Summit order just showed up. So it's kind of a hodgepodge of everything. Some Fragola fittings, some Summit fittings, some are aluminum, some are brass. There's probably a steel one in here somewhere. There we go. I think I got a fuel pressure gauge, I got the fuel lab regulator, I got some fuel injection hose clamps, and then we got some Summit brand hose that's rated for fuel injection in 3/8 and 5/16. So what I'm going to do here is, as I use these fittings, like this one, I think this is the fuel pump outlet, 10 millimeter by 1.0 thread. So like as I use this and confirm it, I'm going to write on the bag what it's doing. And then that way when I edit this video, I can put that part number in the description, maybe with a link to Summit, and say what that fitting is actually doing in the system. And I probably ordered a couple, tried to give myself some options, maybe straights and 90s. So there might be a couple things in there that I end up returning. I tried to give myself a couple options, but for the most part, I think this is all of it. This was the expensive guy. This was $200 regulator. I'm going to show you my truck system too, and talk about who built it and why I like that one. I like it a lot. It's been problem-free for 6 years, but I'm also going to tell you why I decided to build my own this time, and then you guys can decide. All right, I'm going to start getting some of this stuff laid out off camera, and then I'll bring you back when we got something cool to show. Show a little bit of this before I put it all back together. So we have the, where is it? Fuel comes up right here out of the factory hard line. This curly keys down, feeds that banjo fitting off of eBay into the adapter block into the factory banjo. Fuel goes into the heads, travels forward, feeding the injectors. Whatever doesn't get used comes out these lines off each head. AN -4 90s to O-ring base to -4 fittings in this, and then a 5/16 barb to -6 O-ring base on the bottom into the return line, factory return line. So that hose, all three of these hoses are actually what's supporting this right now, and it feels pretty good. I might once the intake elbow's on, I might see if there's a way to kind of support it off of that, but I think it's honestly okay. And then wiring again, I took the fuel bowl heater wire and ran it over there to circuit breaker powering a relay. I mounted a spare relay just in case, and then that goes down along the frame rail. Already ran it a bit, no leaks, so that's great. The pump's pretty loud. Turn the pump on for you guys. I ordered the Bosch 044, and what came was the replacement. It was also a Bosch, definitely a legit pump. It's just got a little bit different fittings. It might even be a little bit bigger body, and it's definitely, I think, a little bit louder. Need a light down here. So there's the pump. You can hear the pump running. It's not a big deal. You cannot hear it over the diesel, so that's not a problem whatsoever. So we grabbed the factory, it's 5/16 in, so 5/16 barb through bushing up to 1/2 inch through this Wix 3339 filter that comes out of the housing, goes around into the pump. This pump had metric threads on each end. This side was 14 by 1.5, and this side was 10 by 1.0, so I was able to order those fittings. They use like a crush washer, and then it comes out here. Oh, so this is 3/8. I kept this 3/8 barb, just keep the feed to the pump a little bit bigger. I kept 3/8 coming out, and then through the secondary filter, which is a 33352. I forget the micron ratings of these. I'll put it in the video description when I do this, or maybe I'll put it on the screen right now. And then it comes out 5/16 and into the factory hard line that I just bent a little bit to give me a little better sweep. And yeah, that's it. So what's kind of weird about these trucks, these 7.3s, is the factory feed line is 5/16 all the way up until the engine, and then it switches over to 3/8. So not a big deal to keep it 5/16 here, but anywhere I could up it to 3/8 I did, just to get a little more flow there. So, and then the pump is grounded right here to bare metal, and then the power wire goes into this factory loom all the way up front to that relay. So I set the Fuel Lab fuel pressure regulator at 60 psi. I think 55 or something is the factory pressure. I've seen some guys jack it up to like 70. I don't think that really gains you anything. I'm gonna get some more stuff to put on. I gotta put that intake elbow on and the flywheel inspection cover. And then tomorrow I'll probably get it out, drive it around a little bit, and then pull it into the carport and start getting some more work done to get ready for KOH. I gotta straighten out the front bumper, put the recovery points on it, and I want to build sliders. I got to do all kinds of things. So first test drive complete. Just took the girls to school, so figured to pop the hood, check for leaks. Everything's good. Pretty simple, really, when you break it down. The two most expensive items for this are the Bosch fuel pump is probably about $200, and the Fuel Lab regulator is also $200. So right there, right away, even if you want to DIY this, you're at $400. And then by the time you add fittings, hose, filter bases, filters, all that stuff, you know, I'll tally it up and put it at the end of this video. If you guys have a guess of what you think I spent, put it in the comments. So what I don't love is just this regulator just kind of hanging up here in space. but it's where the factory hoses were willing to get to. I've seen guys mount them up here on top of like the H-pop reservoir, and I like that, but these hoses don't want to be there without some work. So I'm going to do this. This wouldn't work if you had an intercooler setup. The plumbing would definitely be in the way. And I plan on intercooling this someday, which is why I was okay with this setup, because I'd rather figure out where everything needs to be when I do an intercooler, what space I do have to work with, what I don't have to work with. That'll be like a whole phase of hot rod for this thing, where it gets injectors and intercooler and bigger turbo and all that. So I can, those are tomorrow problems. Let me show you the E-Fuel kit I put on my crew cab years ago and why I like it so much more. So under the truck is almost identical, but what is not is down here in the valley. So that is a billet block of aluminum, and it has threaded into the back, which you can't see, the factory spring and check ball style regulator. So there's no expensive regulator to buy. It just threads into the billet block that's machined for it. It's got a Schrader port for pressure or a gauge if you wanted. The return hoses, when I put this motor in this truck, I upgraded them to these custom ones from Riff Raff, but for a long time these were the stock ones, and they will just bend and land down there because you know, they're comfortable doing that, I should say. Here's why I didn't put this kit on Bluey, is because it comes with custom bent hard lines to feed the heads. And to get them in there, you have to pull the turbo. And I did not want to pull the turbo on Bluey right now. I didn't want to do that until I was going to upgrade it. So that is why I decided to make my own, because I just did not want to deal with that at this point. But it's a very clean, you can see how simple and clean that setup is. The billet block bolts down to the motor on the factory fuel bowl mounting bolts. It's just, everything about that is just great. Now I did upgrade it, so when you buy it from Mark, he gives you a compression fitting. So you cut the factory line and you put a compression fitting. I didn't love that idea, so I AN flared the factory line, put a tube nut setup on it for the AN fitting. So I did that there and under the truck. But the wiring on this one is identical to what I did on Bluey, same thing. Circuit breaker and relay over there. The pump and filters under the truck is pretty much identical too. Now what I did do on this truck was I went AN everywhere with push lock, and it looks super clean, no hose clamps, super pro, but the hose is drying out and cracking, and now I'm realizing this is way harder to fix in the field or on the trail, because push lock can be kind of a pain in the butt. So that's one reason I decided to do the hose clamp stuff on Bluey. I wanted to make sure Bluey was more serviceable on the trail than this truck, so that's why I decided to just do barb fittings and fuel injection rated hose and clamps, fuel injection clamps. That concludes this video. As always, thanks for watching. I hope you guys like this one. I know this one's very specific to OBS 7.3 guys that are trying to do an e-fuel thing, but little glimpse into kind of how I put stuff together, and hope somebody learns something from this. And if you want to do this to your 7.3, I've got all the part numbers in the description below. I've got links to stuff. If it came from Amazon, click my link, and it's an affiliate link, so I get a little bit of kickback. And then a lot of this stuff came from Summit Racing. But a couple things off Amazon, namely the Bosch pump and the filters and the filter bases too. Let me know if you got any questions, put them in the comments below, and we'll see you next week.